Mumukshunam
Mumukshunam
hitataya
Tatvabodho abhidiyate.
Tatvabodho abhidiyate.
So let's go to the second chapter because we finished the first chapter again. So second chapter, the first shloka. Tattva vivekaha kaha
Tatvavekaha kaha
atma satyam tadanyat sarvamityeti.
Atma
Atma
satyam
satyam
tadanyat sarvam
tadanyati
mityeti.
Atma kaha
Atma
Atma kaha
स्थूल सूक्ष्म कारण शरीरा व्यतिरिक्तः
Stula
Stula
Sukshma
Sukshma
Karna Sharira
Karana
Vyatiriktah
पंचकोश अतीतः
Panchakosha
Panchakosha
Atitaha
Atitaha
अवस्थात्रय साक्षी
Avatra
Avastatraya
Astratraya
Sakshi
चिदानंद स्वरूप सन
Sachidananda
Nanda
Swarupa San
Swarupasan
यह तिष्ठति सह आत्मा.
Yaha
Yaha
Tishtati
Tishtati
Saha
Saha
Atma.
Atma.
So Hari Om everybody. I'm sorry about last week, couldn't make it. But let's just quickly summarize where we are. Normally, when we have such a big break, people forget because most of the time people come and open the textbook once they're back in the class. So we are actually studying Tattva Bodha, the text called Tattva Bodha, written by Adi Shankaracharya, which is a Prakarana Grantha. The objective is to essentially get the knowledge of Mumukshutvam. What is Mumukshutvam? He will talk about it. That is the purpose of this book. People who studied the book should get moksha at the end or get close to the moksha. So far what we have done is that we spent almost, I would say, a couple of months or a month and a half on understanding what are the qualities that are required in a good student, in a student who's capable of studying Tattva Bodha. Now, it does not mean that we all need to have the quality at the maximum level, but we need to have inclination of each one of those. The reason that is important is if you develop these qualities, you can do the vicharam very well. You can actually analyze and understand this very well, because a lot of people will tell you that they've read 10 Upanishads, 20 Vedantas books and this, but nothing would have changed with them because none of these qualities are there in them. The more of these qualities that you can develop, and we looked at the 4 qualities that the Guru mentions, which is Viveka, Vairagya, and then a set of 6, and then Mumukshutvam. And it's a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, and each of these qualities, we spend a lot of time. We talked about what is the description, what are the methods to get it, and what do you get if you get out of it. What are the benefits you get once you get those qualities. So we went through that in great detail. And then we started, and the Guru says that once you have studied these, got these qualities, you are ready for Tattva Vivekaha. And so that's how we entered the chapter number 2. And obviously the first question the student asks is, what is Tattva Viveka? That is the first question that he asks. And the Guru just puts one sentence, and think of it like a tree that is unfolding from the top. So he will just put out a sentence, and then he will lead us into further branches as we go down. So he just says this, says the key Vivekam thing is Atma Satyam, and everything else except the Atma is Mithya. And then we actually looked at this shloka in great detail, figuring out why we need to do the Viveka in terms of, because both of them are commingled and we need to separate it out. And that's how, and then we started talking about what is Atma. And I think that in that discussion class, we had this issue about the word I actually denotes Atma, but it also denotes a lot of other things as we describe the word I. Sometimes it describes the mind, sometimes it describes the body, sometimes it describes the buddhi. But the real I is what the book calls Atma. And we will get to find out more about what this Atma is. So when we say I am X, Y, and Z, we actually mean the Atman. but we use the same I for a lot of different things. That is not the case in Indian languages, but in English, the same word I is used for multiple things and it gets confusing. So obviously the question that arises is, what is Atma? You said Atma is Satyam. So what is Atma is then, and then we discussed the description about what is Satyam, what is Mithya, what is Asat. We discussed all the definition. And so the next question was, what is Atma? Atma kaha? And what the Guru does here is that he doesn't address the question directly. What he says is, he actually highlights all the things that we think are I. And there are 13 things that he mentioned. We went through that in the last class, which is the 3 shariras, the 5 pancha koshas, 5 koshas, and the 3 avasthas, right? So 5 plus 3 plus 6, that's 11. So there is 11 bodies that he talks about, not 13, the 11 bodies, sorry. The 11 different aspects of I that we use in our language. So what he's going to do now is that he's going to go through each of these areas. So he'll discuss what is Stula Sharira, what is Sukshma Sharira, what is Karana Sharira, and then he'll discuss the Panchakosha Viveka. He'll talk about what are the different avasthas. So basically highlighting to you what we are not. So the objective of this particular set of verses, and it probably goes on for quite a while, is that it basically highlights what are the things that we are not. And then after we negate all that, whatever is remaining is what he would call as Atma. So that's where we were. We had just gone through this 11 different components, let's call it, of ourselves, of what we call ourselves. And then we were supposed to get into the next shloka. So that's where we were. I will stop right there and see if people have any questions, if something doesn't make any sense. Okay, it happens all the time. Initially, I think everybody has starting trouble. So we'll get started. And as we move forward, I'm sure things will get warmed up. So Ushaji has joined. I don't know whether she is, can you hear us, Ushaji?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
So can you, that's okay. Don't worry. There's no sorry. All of you are coming. That's great. So let's read verse number 3. So now we are, he's described those 11 components. Now he's going to go after each component, and we will look at each component in great detail. There are 3 or 4 different aspects of this that I would like to highlight. And these are the building blocks that will help you understand what Atman is. So let's start with this verse. Stula Sharira Kim. So basically, as you know, every term that the Guru says, the student comes back in the next verse and basically asks, what is that term, right? And so that's what we are. So Ushaji, you read it and we'll repeat it after you.
Stula Shariram Kim.
Stula
Shariram
Kim.
Panchikruta Panchamahabhutaihi.
Panchikruta Panchamahabhutaihi
Kritam Satkarma Janyaha.
Kritam
Satkarma
Janyam actually.
Janyam. Sukha Dukkhadi Bhogayatanam Shariram.
Sukha Dukkhadi
Bhogayatanam Shariram.
Asti Jayate Virdhate.
Asti Jayate Vardhate
Viparinamate
Viparinamate Apakshiyate Vinishyati
Iti Shadvikaravat Etat Stula Shariram.
Iti Stula Shariram.
So basically, he describes what is the Stula Shariram. So let's just read what is described and we'll analyze this a little bit more. So who wants to start? Rajini ji, I see your face, so I'll pick on you today. So just start reading the English description of that shloka and then we'll go from there. What is gross body? So Stula Shariram in English is called gross body. Right? So we will try to convert it into a term that we can all understand.
Stula Shariram Kim. What is the gross body? Panchikrita Pancha Mahabhutaihi Kritam Satkarma Janyam. That which is made up of 5 great elements that have undergone the process of grossification born as a result of good actions of the past. Sukha dukkhadi bhoga ayatanam shariram. For experience such as joy, sorrow, etc., the counter to experience these. Asti jayate vardhate vipari namate apakshiyate vinashyati. To exist, be born, to grow, to mature, to decay, and to die. Iti shad vikaravat etat sthula shariram. Subject to these 6 modifications, this is the gross body.
Okay, let's stop there. I think I just quickly read the description while you were saying.
Should I continue?
No, I'll get into, I think, let me describe this. He's just going too fast. There's a lot of concepts that I would like to highlight before we get into the description. Let's go to the third line, which said, Sukha Dukkhadi Bhoga Ayatanam Shariram. So, Shariram is nothing but the body that we see. So that is a quick way of describing what the Shariram is. It's the outer body. It's the thing that we are in love with the most, right? The first thing that we do in the morning is look at ourselves in the mirror, make sure it is okay. We put makeup or whatever we do, we take a bath. So that is how we identify ourselves. So when we go outside, the qualities of the Shariram define us. He's a tall guy, he's a fat guy, he's fair, he's dark. All that is actually qualities of the gross body. But that's how we define who I is, right? That's how we define ourselves. What the scriptures say, it is that it is an instrument to experience all the life experiences that we go through. That is the joy, the sorrow, all that is experienced with the gross body. It's the gross body that actually is needed for you to experience all the major experiences that you go in the world, so to speak. Like, for example, to live in this world, we need a shelter, we need a house, right? The house is the place where we live, and that's how we live our life, right? Without a house, we can't really live. We can't live homeless, and there are people who are homeless, but we normally live in a house to really enjoy the world, to be able to refresh ourselves and move forward. Similarly, the gross body is an entity that we take to experience all the experiences that we have in the world, right? Joy, sorrow, happiness, or anything else. So that is very important. That is, think of it more like a house that we live in, and it is through that gross body we experience the world. For example, when you're in deep sleep, you do not have the identification with the gross body, and you do not experience the world. We go through this every day for 5 to 6 hours. We don't know what the world is because we have lost our identification with the body, and hence the identification with the gross world that we live in. So without the body, we will not experience the world. Okay, so the body is an instrument for us to experience the world going forward. After that, let's go to the line number 2. It says, Panchikrita Pancha Mahabhuta Kritam Satkarma Janyam. There is a lot of information packed into that line. Okay. Panchikritam is what we call a grossification. That is, actually all the Panchabhutams are 5 elements. So that is air, water, space, earth, and fire, right? They actually exist in a subtle form. We call that as tanmatras. So they are actually in a subtle form. Now, in order for it to become grossified, I'll just explain the basic process. There is a lot of description in a couple of other textbooks. I think even here we'll get to it at some point down the road. So what happens is you have these 5 elements. So the elements are first broken into, they separate themselves into two halves. And then one of the halves of each element is separated into an eighth. So the other half is separated into 4 elements. So the grossification is half of, let's say, earth, and then 1/8 of each of those components. So 1/8 of space, 1/8 of, and it goes through a panchikritam, or what we call a grossification process. And that's how we get the gross body. In our life, we actually do this on a regular basis, but we don't really pay attention to it. Whatever action that you do in the world, anything that you do actually starts with a subtle thought. It's the thought that leads you to the action. The thought has to be powerful enough for you to do the action. A lot of thoughts come in. Some thoughts do not have the power. They just come and go. But there are some thoughts that actually force you into action. Like, for example, if you like rasgulla and you're upstairs in your bedroom, before you want to go to bed, you feel like eating, you come down and eat. You will get a lot of other thoughts in the process, but you will, like, one of the thoughts would be, oh, I learned in the class that I should recite, I should read a little bit of Upanishad. That thought just comes and goes. You just go back to bed. But so there are some thoughts. So everything in life starts with a subtle layer. Okay, and that subtle layer leads to the grossification. Similarly, the subtle elements are combined into a gross body. Now, the more important aspect of it, this is a fundamental principle of Hinduism, is the karma, the principle of karma, or the law of karma. So it says sat karma janyam. So the gross body that you inherit or that you are born with, it depends on all the karma that you have done. So if there is something wrong with your body, there's no point blaming anyone else. It is the result of your own karma. That is, which family you were born, how tall you were, whether you're born into a rich family or a poor family. Everything is defined by the karma that you do. So basically, we all have punyas and papas. So at a very high level, a human birth, you normally have punya and papa in equality. Then you get a human birth. If you have a lot of punya, you get a deva birth. You become a deva, one of the devas, as you're born as a deva. And if you get a lot more papa, then you get lower janmas, lower bodies than a human birth. You'll be born as an animal or a tree or a plant or an organism or whatever. That all depends on the proportion of punya and papa that you go through. So the more punyas you do, we talked about it a long time ago. This is also, we talked about when we were discussing titiksha, we said, because we have a human birth, we have an equal amount of punya and papa. So there will be times in our life when we will go through the result of the papa. That will be a difficult time. That will be something that's unpleasant in our life. And we need to realize that, and we need to bear it without getting upset. It is part of our human life. So you can't have all positives in your life. There is a positive thing and there is a negative thing. And whenever you make something, you need the material and then you need an intelligent cost. Like, for example, when you make a pot, you need a clay, which is the material cost. And then the potter, it is the intelligent cost, is because it's in the potter's mind. He knows what to make out of the clay, because out of the same clay, he can make a pot, he can make a plate, he can make a ladle, he can do multiple things. So that he is the intelligent cost that converts this nimitta, the upadana karma or the material cost into an entity, right? And so what this book is saying is that the Panchabhutas are the material cost. Those are the materials that are combined to give you the body. Because after you die, what you do to the body, you actually bury it or you burn it, and we all just go back into the elements. The spirit leaves the body and we just become part of the gross body, part of the world altogether. We disintegrate into the 5 elements and then it becomes part of the 5 elements, right? And the intelligent cause that defines the kind of body that you will have is your karma. That's why he says sat karma janyam. So based on the karma, you will get the kind of body. So you get what you deserve. Remember, we have this line in every part of it. So if you have done good things in prior life and a lot of punya, you will get a good body with less amount of illnesses and issues. Like, for example, look at it this way, right? You can be in any surrounding, but if you are ill, you only have to suffer the consequences of the illness. Nobody else can suffer. You have to take the medicine. You have to suffer the consequences of the illness. You might be the richest guy in the world, but nobody else can suffer the illness. You can't really take the illness and say, okay, I'll give you $1 million. You suffer cancer for me. And after you're done suffering, give the result back to me. It doesn't work that way. Whatever you have earned, you actually get the result of it. So it is very important to understand that when something doesn't go right in your life, a lot of times it is your karma that is the reason for it. But there is a very important aspect here too. Like, don't give up your own self-effort, right? The karma basically gives you the body, but you can actually do yoga under Balaji Garu and make it strong, right? If you don't do the yoga, you'll be weak, right? So what you do with the body that you get is up to you. But the kind of body you get depends on the karma. It's like a game of bridge. I don't know if you played bridge. I used to play it when I was in IIT, and it was actually a little bit of an addiction. It was something that didn't go well with my grades. But anyway, if you play bridge, the cards that you get, you have no control, right? But what you can do with the cards is completely under your control. You can work out with your partner and discuss strategies as to how to play the game. Similarly, the kind of body that you get is based on the karma that you've done. What you do with the body is completely up to your purushartha. So we looked at the verse, line number 2 and line number 3. Let's
Can
look at
I ask you a question, sir?
right.
Yeah, it's all because of the karma, the kind of body we get, right? But we also have a chance to, there are two things, like prarabdha karma, we cannot escape. It has to happen. But is there a way that you change it or no?
You can do prayashchittam. Like, for example, you can lower the effect of the thing by doing some, like, you have to go to very learned people. Right? There are a lot of people, like quacks around the place who will say, you do this, you give me some money, or do an archana here. No, but really learned people can actually, you cannot escape the effect of it, but you can minimize the effect, so to speak. You can kind of nullify some of the bad effects of it. That's what we call do prayashchittartham. We do a lot of prayashchittam, like you'll do a homam, or you will do, like you will give dhanam to somebody. Those are the things that are prescribed for each of the defects that you were there. There is a certain amount of prayashchittam you can do, or pratyahara you can do, which can lower the effect. But once you have the prarabdham, you have to go through the body. There is nothing you can do about it. Even the most educated person who has achieved the goal, he still has to live in the body as long as his prarabdha karma is asking it to do. So that is, we can't do anything, because that is something that we come into this world with. So it's like a bank balance that we come with. And our objective is to get rid of the prarabdha and not really accumulate any karma in this life, but it doesn't work that way. We accumulate more karma with more desires and everything else. And so we go in through this cycle of samsara. We keep on buying it. But the reason we take a body, and I think the body, the God gives you the kind of body that will get rid of your karma. So that is the reason we get some kind of like everybody gets a different kind of body. Not only the karma defines it, but the body is supposed to help you lower this bank balance, or lower this the prarabdha karma that you come with. And hopefully at the end of one life, you should not have any more karma in your bank balance. And then you can actually get liberation and not get this into the samsara, that is the life of birth and death. But it doesn't happen that way. Most of the time, we tend to accumulate more karmas or more habits, and then we tend to have this cycle. But the objective of the body, or the need for the body, is to essentially get rid of the karma and create a clean balance sheet, right? That is the key objective. Good question. So the next thing, that is line number 4. The line number 4 basically describes the nature of the body. This is actually something that is very difficult for us to accept. When you say the nature of the body, the change in that we go through, it's not in the Atma, but it's in the Stula Sharira. And there are 6 stages that you go through. First is asti, that is, you are born, you are actually in your mother's womb. That is, you happen to be there. That's called asti. Jayate is when you actually are born from your mother's womb and you stand as an independent person. Then you have vardate, which is the growth that we all see, right? We grow from a baby to young person to a mature adult. And then you have viparinamate, which is the body does not change after a while. Like, I think we all can see up to 20 or 22 is when we get most of the physical attributes of our body. After that, we probably another 20 years or so, things are reasonably okay. But then slowly things start coming down, right? You don't have the same level of stamina, your eyesight goes away, your hearing goes away. That's all characteristics of the body. In this country, they refuse to accept it and they try to do all kinds of plastic surgery and everything else just to keep the body up in its young and supple stage. But I think what we need to understand is when you take the body has to go through these stages. These are the stages that everyone has to go through. And after that, we have the apakshiyate, which is like some organs start losing power, right? You will not be able to digest the same level of food that you had before, or like after you're 40 or 45, you have to wear glasses when you want to drive. You probably had great eyesight when you were young, and then slowly you use your, and then the last one is you vinashyate, you die. It's like a cycle, right? You grow, you mature, it's like a plateau, and then slowly you're on the way down, which is the apakshiyate, and then finally you pass off. So these are the 6 stages, but the critical thing to remember, the you or the I does not die, it's the body that dies. Okay, there is an entity called I, which we'll come to at some point. But the qualities of this particular thing, it's the quality of the stula sharira that has the 6 qualities, not the Atma that we talked about. We will discuss what the Atma is later. But it's the stula sharira that is this qualities. We identify with the stula sharira, and therefore we think we die and we are growing, we are becoming bald, or we are losing our eyesight or whatever. No, that is the body going through the changes. You as a person do not change. We will figure out who we are later. So this is an important concept that you need to understand. The modifications that you see in your body, it is the modifications of the gross body. It is not the modification of I. That's a very important concept that you need to understand. Even God, when he takes a Manushya Rupam, he has to go through these 6 stages. Lord Krishna went through these 6 stages. He's a God. He's not like the God. God also has to, when he takes a human body, he has to follow these rules, because that is the rule of the gross body. It is not the rule of the Atman. Like Lord Rama went through these things. He was a young boy. He became, he grew, and then in our incarnation, some areas are emphasized more than others. Like, for example, the Jayate and the Vardate, Lord Rama is not that. He just went to Balakanta, went with Vishwamitra, did something, and that's all we know. Whereas for Lord Krishna, there are lots of stories about him being a boy and stealing butter and killing this, killing that person. So, but what I essentially want you to take away is that the changes that you see are not the changes in that Atma. Let's just keep that word Atma. We don't know what it is, but we know from our shloka that Atma is Nityam. Everything else is Anityam. And the changes that we see in this thing is in the gross body. So the death that we all are worried about is the death of the gross body. The death is not of you, because you're not the gross body. That's what we are saying. The death that you go through is the death of the gross body. It's not the death of you. Because remember, we said there has to be something that is changeless, that monitors the change in the gross body. And we all know that, right? We are the only person who knew how beautiful or how handsome we were when we were young. Now we are all old. So not many people know that. But we know we used to be very beautiful or handsome, and the opposite sex used to run after us. So we all have that stories of that kind. But how do we know that? Because the body keeps on changing, right? But there is some entity inside us that has observed that has monitored the change. Remember, I talked to you about the train example. You need to be on the station for you to realize that the train is moving, right? So that is kind of the key takeaway from this. Like, obviously, you need to understand what is Sthula Shariram and what are the different components of it. All that is important. But the real thing that you need to take away is that the changes that I see are the changes in the gross body. It's not the change in Atma. We don't know what Atma is, but just as long as you understand that, that is kind of the key takeaway from this shloka. So let me stop there. And yeah, Ushaji, you had a question.
How come this gross body has this mature quality, right? One of the qualities mature. Like, to exist, be born, to grow, to mature, to decay, and to die.
Yeah, mature is kind of, think of it, the period between 20 and 40, where you're practically not growing, right? But you are in your best of health and spirit. So you're slowly maturing from a wisdom perspective, right?
Yeah,
25, you're essentially a creature of hormones. And then as you go up to 40, then you get some life experiences, and then you know what to do and what not to do. So that is what maturity means. Okay.
And one other question that I wanted to ask from just now you said, right, the train example. So is there a evidence or proof that Atma is, is there, like always?
Let me ask you this. Do you need any extra piece of light or information to say that you are there? Even when you're fast asleep, just think of it this way. Let's say you're in deep sleep in midnight. Somebody keeps and wakes you up and say, where is Ushaji? Even if it is dark, you know that you exist. But if this person asks, oh, do you have your iPhone or you have your phone, you'll have to search for it. But you exist does not need any external information. Right? And that existence is what Atman is. You're asking question, I'm answering the question. It might not make any sense, but we will definitely answer that a little bit more. But that is what existence is. That existence is something that it does not depend on anyone else. It is an independent entity. You existing you don't need to ask your husband and say, do I exist? You know you exist. Right? That existence is what we call as Atman. That is the Sat that we talked about in Satchidananda. That is the Sat that you see. But we will describe each of these in greater detail. But so think of what is independently existing is what you are, right? So that is what I would say as an example. It might not be very clear right now. It's a little fuzzy. I can understand the way you're looking at me. I can understand that it's not completely clear. But
I'm thinking, like, we take millions of births, right? So I think these yogis and all, I mean, they know better. So because of some examples and all, they know that, oh, Atma is like, no death for the Atma. But how do we know, like, physically, it's there, like Atma is, unless we get moksha, Atma will be there all the time.
See, what we do is, Atma, one of the fundamental problems with Atma is that Atma is not an object.
Right.
Atma is not an entity that you can get with the senses. We'll discuss that as we move forward. Okay. Right. So, but all I can tell you is that Atma is very much there in you. Even if the Rishi says that you don't know what Atma is, I can confidently say all of us have Atma. Only thing we don't recognize it.
Yeah. I'm convinced. Yeah, I have Atma.
So that is,
Atma is a constant thing. Yeah.
The convincing is where we are going with it. So we are actually peeling off layers that we are not. And what is left will be Atma.
Okay.
We just have to be patient. So one thing hopefully you understand with this first shloka is that you are not Sthula Sharira. Sthula Sharira is changing. That's all you need to know right now. What is Atma, we'll get to at some point. So remember, we started this thing with the Viparita Lakshanam. That is, we started saying, what are the things that we are not? And then we'll get to what we are once we eliminate all those things. It's like, for example, when you go to an Indian farm, you have to remove the husk to really get to the rice, right? So to get to the real stuff, you have to remove a lot of garbage that's on top of it. So similarly, we are peeling off one layer after the other, and what is left at the end will reveal itself to you, and you will realize what Atman is. So right now, what I want you to take away from the shloka is the qualities of the body, how it is obtained from the karma, and the fact that it keeps on changing. And when we die, we don't die, but the gross body dies. But we are something else called Atma. I don't know what Atma is, but we are not the gross body. That's all you need to know at the end of this shloka. And let's see if you have any questions or anything else.
Ushaji, actually, sometimes we meditate upon Nirvana Sattvam.
Yep.
So that also is similar.
To that.
So we are saying, what you are not, elimination. Then you finally say,
Right.
I mean, the question was, I know, I will definitely wait, sir, until that, we reach that point. I think I should have asked this way, what is the proof that the Atma has no Vinas now? That maybe my question was that.
Atma
But,
has no,
yeah.
right. The proof is just based on some experiences that we see. See a child who is born genius, right? He or she probably wouldn't have learned everything in this particular life. He probably learned something in the prior life whatsoever. So there is some common entity that goes across multiple lives. And that's how we have to infer it, right? Because the problem is the people who experience Atma don't come back to tell me what it is. Okay. So that is a fundamental problem that we have, right? But what the Vedas tell you is that they describe, and then you have to use your vicharam and you have to throw away things that are not essential. And as Balaji Garu was saying, you can realize or you can experience it when you're meditating it. But for that, first you need to know what is it that you're looking for. What is the thought that which you go into meditation, right? Just by sitting in meditation, it will quieten you down, your stress level will come down, but it will not create knowledge for you. Even in yoga, the samadhi that we go through, it gives you the peace of life and you get the quietude and happiness. But it is a temporary state. It is not a permanent state. It's only the knowledge where you experience the Atman and you realize that you are the Atman and not the body will give you the 24/7 happiness. You're asking a lot of questions for which I have to go way beyond at the end of the textbook. So you're kind of,
Sorry.
But the problem is the reason I don't want to go there is I want to go in a structured format because I say something, I'm saying it from a different viewpoint and you might not have the same level of concepts and it'll get confusing. So what I would like you to do is just follow this thing and have the faith. This is where Shraddha comes in, that the Atman question will be answered, but you just need to take it one step at a time. You're kind of jumping from step number 1 to step 12, which is very difficult in life, right? You have to go through one step. Otherwise, you will not get the foundation, right? Yeah. You will think that you have understood it. And then if somebody asks you a couple of questions, you don't know what you're talking about, right? So you need to build a strong foundation first before you can build that thing moving forward. So maybe somebody can read it. We just went through all these things. So Shri, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time, so I'll give you the honor of reading. Do you have the textbook with you?
Yeah.
Okay, it's page number 32. So if you can just read it.
The Sthula Sharira or gross body is the first of the 3 bodies we have. We perceive the gross body through the senses. It is nourished by food and energized by prana that is taken in during breathing. The material cause, upadhana karana, of this body is the 5 gross elements. More will be said about the origin of these.
This whole Panchikaranam will be described more. I just gave you a kind of summary. We'll get through it in a lot more detail.
Yeah, more will be said about the origin of these gross elements in chapter 12. In brief, they are born from the tanmatras or subtle elements after they have undergone the grossification process called Panchikarana, which is described in chapter 12. The efficient cause, Naimitta Karana, of this body is one's prarabdha karma, that is, that portion of our entire bundle of past karma over many lives, which has been released for working out in this lifetime. This karma determines our body form, beauty, deformity, race, family circumstances, and so on. The body is regarded as the physical equipment we come with to work out our karma. Therefore, it is called the counter for the exchange of experiences encountered in this world. These experiences enable us to reap the fruits of our karma, good or bad, papa or punya, joys or sorrows. The primary characteristic of this body is its changeability. It undergoes change at every moment of its existence. These changes may be identified into 6 stages. They are asti, existence. This is confirmed by the presence in the womb. Jayate, birth. The child emerges into the outer world. Vardhate, growth. With nourishment and prana, the body grows to maturity. Viparinamate, maturity. It becomes an adult body. Apakshiyate, decay. The withdrawal phase begins. Hair grays, sight weakens, etc. Vinashyati, death. The elements return to where they came from. Our business with this body is to use it well, care for it, respect its functions, but not get attached to it, because it is not the self. The self is who we are.
See that our attachment to the body creates most of the problems that we have in the world, right? We are so attached to our body. If somebody says anything about our body, we get upset. Our ego is way ahead in terms of how we look, how we dress. I'm not saying you should not be clean. You take a bath and keep, because the body, if you don't wash it 2 times every other day, it's going to smell, right? That's not what we want. But don't pay too much attention to your body. If you look at a lot of us, we spend half our day looking at the mirror. When we get up itself, we look at the mirror, we look at sideways, front and back, and see how we look. And every time we go to the bathroom, we kind of make sure that the shirt and everything that we are wearing, we spend so much time on our appearance. And we need to realize that the appearances at the end of the day is not us. It is just like a house that we live in. So, and when we die, we do not die. The self or the Atma does not die. It is the gross body that dies. And all the changes that we see are the effects on the gross body. It's not the effect of the self or the Atman that we have. So let me stop there and see if anybody has any questions on subtle body. The best way to kind of quickly identify the Stula Sharira is that it is the body, right? So it is a quick one word for what is a Stula Sharira. It is my body. That is what is a Stula Sharira. It houses everything. It is in which everything is contained. So just like the house in which we have all the instruments and and we live in the house and everything else, and it protects us from a lot of different things. This body is very similar. So it's a ayatanam. We need this body to experience the bhoga sadhanam, that is the good and the bad in this world, or to experience the world in itself.
Kind of a rented house.
It could be rented, it could be owned, but it's practically owned, right? You own it to a certain extent, but it is a house. Even you have to maintain it, right? A house needs maintenance. So similarly, even if you don't want to build a strong body, do your yoga, as Balaji Garu says, at least 3 to 5 times a week to maintain it properly, right? See, what you need to realize is, even if you want to achieve Vedanta and understand the Atma, you need the body to be strong. See, if the body is weak, you can't sit and meditate, because if you, let's say when you sit down and then you have a backache or your knees are hurting, you're not meditating on the Atma, you're meditating on the pain. The pain is bothering you so much that your mind is not going there. So this is the problem that we have with Vedanta. People say that, oh, this is not the time for me. I'll come and do it when I'm retired. But by the time you're retired, your body is on the way down. We just saw it. It does not have the same level of energy for you to do the sadhanas that you need to achieve that knowledge. So that's why we say that you continue it even in your normal life, because remember, we saw in great details about the sadhana chatushtaya qualities. Those qualities will also be useful in your transactional life. So it's not something that you push it till retirement, but you do it as you move forward. So any questions on gross body? Any questions on Sukshma Sharira?
So, yeah, so what is the takeaway from here, sir? So are we saying leave a minimalist lifestyle, right? And then take care of the gross body, but at the same time, don't spend too much? I'm just trying to understand, right? Let's say, no matter what, right? You want, you have all the needs, right? Needs are covered. So you want wants because the Navaratri is coming, and then these people are all selling something. You want to buy something little, right? Again, we get attached to that materialistic life, right? So are we saying no? Don't buy anything more and start living a minimalist lifestyle. So at least you're not accumulating more karma. Is that correct?
No. Minimalistic lifestyle and accumulating karma are completely different things. Okay, karma is a set of actions that you do that creates desire, and then you do it and create selfish desire. You do more and more, and it kind of leaves an impression. We'll get to it a little later.
Again, sorry to interrupt. This is a selfish desire too, right? Me wanting to buy something for the festival. It's a selfish desire. The same amount, it could be like $50, $100. I can give it to somebody else, right? Who's in need for education, anything.
No. What we see, again, I don't want you to start saying that Vedanta says that you have to live like a hermit. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is that do the basics so that you keep the body in good shape. It's like your car, right? You need to make sure the car is functional. It's able to, when you turn the key, the car starts and it takes you from one place to the other. For that, it requires a constant maintenance. You need to check the air pressure. You need to do an oil change on a regular basis. Do whatever is required to keep the body in good shape. But for example, just to give you a car example, if you go and see some of the younger guys, they'll put a fin at the back of the car, or they will change the wheel and make the wheel look very shiny. Those things are not necessary, right? Those are all going a little bit out of like you're trying to live with your car. What I'm trying to say is that realize, like once you realize that this body is not permanent, at some point it has to go, you will not pay so much attention. Like you will not identify with the body to the extent that if something happens to the body, you're kind of completely mentally upset. You will not be. You'll just say it's problem with the body, I'll get it fixed and I'll move on. So you need to be able to have the right level of attachment and detachment with the body going forward. The problem in our case, in a lot of cases, is that we live for the body, not the other way around. The body is an instrument that we should be using for our purpose to learn the spiritual truth. But what happens in our case is because we identify that we are the body, we spend so much time with the body. We more than 10-20% of the time, waking time is spent on grooming the body, making sure body is okay. And then I'm not saying any one of you do it, but I've seen a lot of people do plastic surgery. They want to look ever young. They don't want to kind of age gracefully. So there's a lot of things that happen when you identify yourself with the body. But what I'm trying to say here is that I realize that the changes that you're going in the body are natural. It is the quality of the body. It really you cannot really hold back. It is a law of nature. Am I making sense? I don't know whether I've answered your question the way you asked it.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, but the goal is to get moksha, right? So bottom line, I'm just thinking this minimalist, I don't know, it's just my mindset now, right? Don't spend too much on your appearance, right?
No, but do the basics required, right? Tomorrow, don't go
just the basics.
Without shaving. Then you cannot say, oh, I'm studying Vedanta, I'm not the body. He'll kick you out of the office, right? So if you have to go to the office in a suit, go and do your transaction life the way you have to do. But realize that you're playing a role, right? It's like an act. You just don't take it too seriously, literally that, okay, if something goes wrong, you're completely devastated, right? So you have to do whatever is required in your transaction life, but realize that it's a role that you're playing.
But okay. One thing, sir, like what Rupa asked, right? I read somewhere recently, like suppose you can afford buying 10 flowers to God, right? I read that you should be buying 10. There you should not, show the your miser or spendthrift. You cannot go and say, oh no, God is happy with even one flower or without flowers. So how far it is true? Is it true? Like, like if you can afford, I know you will be doing charities and all according to your thing. At the same time, if I can afford a bunch of flowers, I'll buy it, decorate my God. But are you saying even then that's not necessary? I thought Rupa asked that. I thought so.
I think you have to do everything with a balance. I think the way you guys are asking is either it is famine or it's a feast. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that have a balance between the two.
Right.
And make sure that that doesn't become the only goal in your life.
Yeah.
Right? It is just a transactional thing that you're going through. You have a bigger purpose. But if you're going to the temple, you want to do an archana, you need to have all the ingredients, right? You can't just say, I'll do an archana without a coconut or without fruits or whatever. Whatever is required, the basics, the right aspect of it, you have to get it done. But you don't have to show off there if you're very rich, saying you take, instead of the guy gives you, normally he'll give you a wooden tray. You don't have to say, I'll take a gold tray and go. I'm used to taking only gold trays. That's not what I'm saying. That is like excessive, right? You do whatever is required, the basics to.
Yeah. And I would say more importantly, without attachment, right?
Right. You have to also detach it. And I think the detachment will come in once you realize that it's something that's going to perish.
For example, you give something nice to Swamiji, they will take it. They won't say, I'm a Swamiji, I don't want it. But they're not attached. They equally enjoy,
Correct.
and what,
They'll give it out to someone else, or whoever actually needs it more than them.
Yeah.
No, but I think
Can we add?
what you said, Balaji Garu, is the attachment to the body, to the gross body. That's where we are most of the time. I'm not saying all of us are, but a lot of us spend a lot of time, and the way our body looks, our mood changes accordingly. Like one day, if the body is not feeling well, or you're very upset, or suddenly, if you have not done yoga for a couple of days, you feel that your tummy has become bigger, then you feel very upset. I'm just giving you, the physical appearance has a tremendous effect on your emotional side of things, because
I can give a little bit of my story, right? So obviously I did yoga and all that. So I lost 40 pounds. So I became like 132 pounds.
right.
So I could maintain it for a long time without any difficulty. So now when the COVID starts, when you start putting up a couple of pounds, I couldn't believe I became so conscious about my body. When I look at 135, I'm 135. So then I realized that's becoming an attachment.
Correct.
Being healthy is great, but your goal in life should not be you always are at 130 pounds.
Correct.
That you have to be healthy.
It changes, so you need to adapt to it. But at the same time, I think it's important to realize that a healthy body is needed for even pursuing spiritual path, right? Without a body, you cannot achieve the glory that you want to do.
Last time I was 130 was in an 8th grade, Balaji. So one question, sir. Sorry, somebody was asking.
Rajini ji was asking. Rajini ji was asking.
No, sir, not a question, but like, can we add one more element to what the questions Rupaji and Ushaji were saying? So it's not only about maintaining our Sthula Shariram, but not to worry about any quality that our Sthula Shariram has. For example, someone has a short height, someone like they have complex. I always used to feel like I should have grown 2 more inches and it would have been good. So we should not worry about those things, or a fairer skin, or maybe other things. So those things we should not worry much, but there is much more other than the Sthula Sharira to be paid attention to. My grandma always used to say, like, my sister has like a big gap in between her teeth, and although we can do many cosmetic things, but she used to say, do you know, you are very lucky if you have a gap between the teeth. So maybe something like that, like that's what I thought, element to it, not only maintaining ourselves, but whatever we have, that should not be an obstacle.
Right. And I think the problem is that by the time we achieve the maturity, the effect is already on us, right? A lot of these things about height and how we look are during the teenage years. At that time, we are not mature enough to understand that this is something that there's only so much I can control. We seem to think that, okay, why did I get this? We go to our parents and we'll cry, or we'll make a big deal out of the whole thing. But eventually, as you get mature and you get older, you realize there's only so much you can control in life. Certain things, the way you look, the height you have, unless you wear heels or something, you can't really raise your height too much. It is what it is. You just have to live with it and make the best use of it. And I think the maturity you realize that you don't need to be tall to achieve a lot of things in life, or achieve anything in life, actually. You can achieve everything There are a lot of short people who are really great. Winston Churchill, Napoleon was a short guy. He conquered the entire world. So I think you're right. But the problem is that the age at which all those things affect us, a lot of us don't have the maturity at the time. And so we do get affected by the physical appearance of our body.
Can I ask one question, sir? So I understand, in the overall picture, why we are understanding the gross body, the subtle body, and we are making that journey, in phases, unconditioning it. But your body, whatever it is, whether common sense tells take care of it. Like a traveler takes care of his horse while he's traveling. But isn't it a component of prarabdha karma? Whatever you have, your body, it is what is your karma has dictated, whether you're tall, thin, short, fat, diseased. It is prarabdha karma. What is your role in this, in maintaining it? Don't you want to condition beyond it and say, it is what it is, I need to go beyond the body and, go to the next level?
The problem is going beyond the body, you need to know where you want to go. And we are trying to find that out right now. But in order for you to go beyond the body, go to the point, you need the body to be in good shape. If the body is not maintained well, and it is something that is having a lot of issues, you cannot do the meditation, or you cannot do all the things that are required to get there. But my objective in this thing is not to tell you the body is not important. The body is important, right? But the excessive focus on the body needs to be avoided. That is, totally focus only on the body, how you look, how you dressed up. I'm not saying don't maintain your body. I'm not, because what you get, as I said, in the game of bridge is a set of cards. But how you get the thing to, like, you can maintain the body well, right? You can exercise, you can make sure that you live a healthy lifestyle, eat well, exercise well. That is completely up to you. You might be getting a great looking body when you're young, but if you eat really horrible food or you listen to a lot of music, some of the powers of the body will slowly go away, right? So you need to maintain the body, realize that it's an instrument for you to achieve the goal, but it is not the goal. At least that's what I wanted to convey, that and a lot of times we get very worried about the changes that are happening, and the changes are not happening to me, but it's happening to the gross body is what we need to identify. Because because we identify with the body, when the body changes, it affects us, right? When we, like, for example, I'm sure none of us here, all of us have hair, but some of my friends who are with me in IIT, now if I see them after 25 years, they're completely bald. I have to really spend a little extra time to make sure it's the same guy that I went to school with. Right? I'm sure if I'm feeling it that way, how bad he would feel, right? He had a bunch of hair and now he doesn't have any hair. But you need to accept it and move on. You cannot just completely get dejected and not live your life. You just say, okay, it is part of, as you said, part of the prarabdha karma. I was born in a family where most of the male did not have hair, and therefore that's the way I am. But that acceptance is not easy. It's very easily said. It takes a lot of effort and time and a lot of maturity before you learn to live with it. Does that make sense?
It does. See, I mean, I don't want to, we're already over time, but you said, lack of hair. Okay, that's the genetics, prarabdha karma. But vasanas are also there, which are also byproduct of karma. Okay. And your condition of the body is because of some vasanas. What is, how do you say you need to control it and keep it in good condition so that you can do meditation? But then there is a karma which is making your body being what it is because of the vasanas, right?
Let's not confuse vasanas and karma. They're two different things. We'll get to vasanas. Vasanas is think of it more like habits that you go through. That's very different than the kind of body you get. Because you can get a great body, but if you have a vasana for alcohol, you can destroy your body.
Right. That's what I was trying. Yeah.
Right. But so that vasana is very different than the karmas that we're talking about. We'll get to, let's not confuse two different terms. They're two different things altogether. The prarabdha karma defines the physical appearance, defines the body that you get. Now, vasanas habits and the way you act in your mind, the ideas that come in your mind, that comes from what we call karna sharira, and it comes out of that. We will get to it at a different point, but they're not the same.
Yeah.
Any other questions on?
Yeah, little bit off track, right? But I just wanted to ask this question so badly. So we live in this earth, right? So it's a container, right? It's a body of water, body of land, and everything, right? So, so my question is, even that is diminishing. So that's changing too, right? Scientifically speaking, it's changing every single day. So that it's dying, in other words. So even that is unreal, right? The planet where we live is unreal also.
Correct. The world is unreal.
Okay.
The world changes. And you yourself are answering that question.
Right. Okay. Just wanted to confirm. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Anything else? Any more questions?
Just Aitanam means what, sir?
Ayatanam is an entity that holds, an instrument that holds. Or it's not really an instrument, but think of it like
we say Panchaitanam, right? Ram Panchaitanam or Shiva Panchaitanam.
Yeah, even in Mantra Pushpa we say, right?
Correct. You do say
in Mantra Pushpa.
Yeah, Mantra Pushpa. Right. Think of it, it is like I think of it like an enclosure that holds us, and we need that enclosure for us to. The best example I can give you is like a house, right?
Shelter type.
Which we live in, right?
Okay.
It's a, I don't know, a house or a physical body that in which you live. That's kind of the best way I can put it.
Yeah,
right?
I get it. Thank you. Yeah.
And it's a boga ayatanam. So you need that ayatanam to enjoy. So the gross body is needed to enjoy the experiences that the world gives out. It could be positive or negative, but without the body, you will not enjoy it. Like you see that in deep sleep, when the body is not there, when you don't have the identification with the body, you don't enjoy the world. The world doesn't even exist, right? So it's an entity that houses you, and you need that entity to experience the world. Okay. Anything else? If not, we'll stop there. We are 5 minutes over time, so I'm sorry. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Guru Namaha. Hari Om. By the way, before I go, next Monday is Labor Day weekend. I'm not sure if I have no problem. I'm not going anywhere. But do we want to have a class, or we do not want to have a class? What does everybody want to do?
In the evening, so should be okay.
I'm voting for yes.
Yes.
All right. So if everybody wants, I'll be there. So I'll see you next Monday then.
May not be there, sir. I'm sorry.
Have a good week. Yeah. Goodbye.
Thank
Hari
you.
Om. Thank you, Hariji. Thank you, Balaji Garu.
Thank you. Hari Om.
Hari Om.